Life is precious. I think we would all agree. But often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. Hello, I'm Tom Russo, and this is In a Blink of an Eye, where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcame through faith, courage, and determination. Join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn to not only survive, but thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by tradingcardsmarketplace.com. Discover, connect, and collect. That's tradingcardsmarketplace.com. Now, I have to tell you, folks, seems like I'm a broken record because every one of my guests is so special to me. But what an incredible guest I have today, who also happens to be a cousin of mine from the great state of Michigan. I have with me Natalie Frias, and what a story, ladies and gentlemen, she has. Natalie, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share my story and just bring more awareness to kidney disease and hopefully
What
help a
what an
couple people
incredible
understand it.
story, and I can't wait to dive into it, but first, tell the people a little bit about yourself. Tell them where you grew up, where you went to school, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan, well, slightly outside of it. I'm an only child. I have a Sicilian father, or had, sorry, he passed away 2 years ago. A Sicilian father, and my mother is Dutch. So we are very loud and we talk a lot. I grew up kind of in a small town. My dad owned a pizzeria and we lived on top of it. And so at a very young age, I was slinging pizzas and helping out in the restaurant, and which I believe taught me a great work ethic. I
Absolutely.
went to school at Hamilton High School. I was really big into choir and music and dance. I did a year at Hope College as a dance major, and then I moved to California, where I ended up getting into the personal training kind of field in the fitness industry, and absolutely fell in love with boxing and teaching classes and helping people get healthy through fitness. And I was out there for a good portion of years until I moved back here to Michigan.
Well, I know for a fact that when you went out to California, you were suffering from something that kind of caused a problem. In fact, it started when you were at Hope College, I believe, and then
Mhm.
you moved out to California to kind of get a fresh start. Tell us a little bit about that because I know that was a tough time in your life.
Yeah. So I suffered from an eating disorder. It actually started prior to Hope College. I always was very self conscious of my body, and my dad. He'd always been overweight, and I always saw people kind of making fun of him or him struggle with different health issues. And I think it just put a fear in me, basically, to have that happen to me as well. And so I started to control food more than I should have. So when I got to Hope College, I was working out probably about 5 hours a day, maybe only consuming about 400 calories. And I was a dance major. And so one of my teachers made the dean of Hope aware of what was going on. And they basically didn't let me go to any of my active classes because they were worried about me, and I just couldn't get through it. And so after 1 year at Hope, I ended up leaving there, because I just wasn't in the physically or mentally, emotionally in the right state to be, trying to get through college at that
And
point
you
in
lost a
time.
lot of weight during that time period, right?
Oh, yeah, I went down to 90 pounds. Um, yeah, I was pretty much skin and bones. And then I think my boyfriend broke up with me at the time, and it just kind of took me in a tailspin the other way. So then I just started eating like crazy, and stopped working out. And I think I went from 90 pounds. And I don't know how much I finally ended up weighing, but I think I went up to a size 16, you know? Yeah. And so it really just, I basically didn't know who I was or what I was doing, with
Almost
my
an
life.
identity issue as far as your
Yeah.
self-worth. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about I know off camera you mentioned to me that that it almost made you angry with God during this time
Oh,
period.
yeah. I just kind of was like, why am I going through this? You know, somebody that always like knew what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to do different things. I always had this kind of dream to move to California and really pursue dance. And then I was so mad that when I entered college, everybody had that 4-year plan, right? And mine got kind of rocked. And so I was really angry. It just didn't make sense to me because I'd always been in my mind a good person and trying to do the right thing, and I never, my parents always said how great of a child I was. So I just was so mad on like, why am I going through this, and when I was out in California I struggled for a little bit with it, and um I finally started getting, I don't know. It's like one day I stopped. One day I stopped overeating or trying to control my calories and just stopped worrying about the scale and started getting into the gym again and trying to fall in love with working out and being healthy. And what led me there um, was boxing. So I started boxing and really fell in love with the sport. And then as I got healthier, I started to understand kind of, well, maybe God had me go through this so that I could be a stronger person, you know? And
And
I
that's a
still,
very healthy attitude. That's a
yeah,
how long did it take you to go down that road before you really started realizing that God had a plan all along?
yeah. So it was like, I want to say junior year of high school, I started dabbling with the eating disorder. And then, um, all the way up to 2 years after, in probably 2 years in, maybe even 1 year in California, I started just kind of getting away from my views on food and my views that I had to be in the gym for like 5 hours a day, and I really tried to just mentally, physically, and emotionally get into a positive state,
Going back
and try to
to you said it might have
mm,
started when you were in high school. Was
yeah.
do you think I know you said you had a self-image issue with yourself. Was there bullying involved as well? Was there peer pressure that you think might have led to that as well?
There was there was a little bit of bullying when I was younger. I was called fat, and I wasn't like fat, but I had, baby fat, and then, as a dancer all my life, so you're staring at yourself. I'm only 5'2", so I'm around all these tall, lanky girls, that are super skinny. They're more of the dancer body type, and I had people doubt me too for being only 5'2". Like I had a dance teacher tell me I would never do point because I wasn't the right body type. So again, there's a focus on my body, right?
Yeah, there's a shame almost to it, and
Yeah.
it's a sad thing, and let me tell you something, girl, great things come in small packages, I know you know that. My
Yeah.
wife is 5'2" and she's a spitfire, so I understand.
Yeah. So yeah, there
That
was just a lot of doubt. I think too, though, I just saw my dad go through so many health issues, and I remember one time we were watching The Nutty Professor at the movies, and it's I don't know if you remember it. It's with Eddie
with Eddie
Murphy.
Murphy? Yeah,
Yeah, and he becomes a big guy, through science. Or no, sorry, he's a big guy who becomes a little guy. And there was all
right,
these fat jokes in it. And it
yeah.
really like, everybody's laughing, even my dad's laughing the whole time. And I am crying. I'm like in tears because all I can think is like how horrible for my dad to sit here and they're laughing at somebody that is his physique, And and I think I just really internalized it, I really internalized it, and because I couldn't help my dad, um, I, tried to control my own self,
Right,
in that way.
right.
So,
So fast forward a little bit, you're in California, you kinda pull yourself out, finally, you realize God has a plan, and things start turning around. In fact, you reach out to a dating service, and you go on, I believe you said Match.com, and you started, a early level relationship with a young man. Um,
yeah, so this was a number of years after the eating disorder. So I was out in California for 12 years. And
okay,
I would say about the 11th year, I put myself back through school. I got my certification to be a certified personal trainer. I was teaching boxing classes, teaching dance classes, all these different things. probably in the best shape of my life, honestly, that I've ever been in a healthy way. And I just wasn't meeting the right people, for as a life partner. And I was in my 30s now. So there was a little bit of this stress of, okay, am I going to find somebody kind of that I get to spend my life with, and I'd always prayed to God for a partner, even at a young age. You see your friends dating in junior high and you're like, why can't I have a boyfriend? Like,
Right.
and
Right.
so, so I still was praying to God, like, where's my guy, And so I went on the dating site and I told myself, I'm just going to go on dates and I'm going to try not to say no,
And have
unless it's
fun.
like,
And have
yeah, just
fun.
have fun.
Yeah.
And so I was going on all these dates and I was kind of you get burnout explaining yourself all the time, And so
Right.
I was like, this guy reached out to me on Match.com and I said, okay, this is the last date I go on for a while. I'm going to focus back on myself again and then I'll revisit it later. Well, then, me and this guy went on a date, we ended up talking so much. We closed, the restaurant said, hey, we got to close up. So then we went to the Starbucks next door. And again, they were like, hey, we got to close. Um, so he walked me to a car, and what I found so impressive is that we didn't just like end it there. He didn't just say, bye, I'll call you. He basically planned the next date already right away, which told me, wow, okay, like this could be something. And so we had been kind of seeing each other for a month, just going on dates. And I got a call from one of my doctors, and I had gone for like a routine blood work. So I didn't have insurance at the time. And so if I ever had like a weird symptom, I would go in and, get something checked out. And the doctor at the time said, well, let's do some blood work. Because the thing that I didn't mention earlier is that when I was younger, and this is the reason the doctor did the blood work, is I did have what they believe is I had strep throat. And strep throat damaged 30% of my kidneys. And so I've known this whole time that my kidneys weren't amazing. And
They
they
weren't
even
they
said I
weren't
might,
fully functioning,
they weren't
right?
fully functioning and they could get worse, they said. And they even said you probably can't have kids.
So
And
so
so,
this is folks, this is where this blink of an eye moment happens because as amazing as Natalie's story has been to this point, it gets unbelievably amazing at this point. So pick it up now. You have this blood work, and here we go.
yep. So I get the blood work done and I think I got a call or they left a message. And so I checked my message. It was like 6 a.m. because I had to teach an early morning class. And the doctor basically said, you need to get to the ER immediately. Your blood work came back like he basically just said it's really bad. Like, I'm surprised you're alive, kind of thing. And so I went to the ER and I didn't have insurance at the time. I couldn't afford it. I was making decent money, but I just couldn't afford insurance. And so I paced probably for a half an hour outside of the ER and I called my mom and she's like, "Go in there, who cares? We will figure it out." And so I went in there and they did an ultrasound and they couldn't hardly find my kidneys. They basically said they were the size of like a little bean. Um yeah, basically a kidney bean.
Yeah, no
And
pun intended, but
yeah, no pun intended. And
so
when
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. When I started to kind of think about it, when they told me that, the only two symptoms I had, and this is why I tell people to get regular checkups, is I was tired, fatigued, and which didn't surprise me because I was teaching classes all the time. I was really active and I just thought I was fatigued. But the other one was I would get a cramp when I would yawn. So I would yawn and all of a sudden I would get this cramp in my neck, like a Charlie horse. Or if
Wow.
I'd go to adjust my shirt, I would go to kind of a cramp in my side. And I thought at the time I had been driving weekly to LA, 1 day a week to teach in LA because I was thinking about moving to LA. And I thought it was because of the driving, kind of back and forth. I think part of me didn't want to believe that it was my kidneys.
Right.
And so basically, I went right into the hospital. They had me on dialysis immediately through a port in my chest. And I was doing dialysis every day. And then they told me, as soon as the nephrologist came in, basically told me, your creatinine's 13, which it's supposed to be below zero. Or not below zero, but like point 3,
Really
4, 5,
low.
something like
Yes.
that.
Low
Yeah.
number. Yeah.
And they're like, you need, they're like, you need a kidney transplant. And at the time, I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't, they told me it takes a while. You either can get a living donor or a deceased donor, but it still can take some time. You also have to have, depending on your insurance, you sometimes have to have about $20,000 up front before the surgery can be performed. Then the other things are the transplant might not last the lifetime. Some people get a transplant, it won't even work off the table. They get it done and then it just never ends up working. Some people have it up to 10, even 30 years, I've heard, it just depends. You can do everything right and still lose a kidney and still lose the transplant. Dialysis is, I learned there's two forms of dialysis: hemodialysis, which is the one most people know, which is through your blood. So machine, basically you get hooked up to a machine through your veins. So like a kind of like a IV, and it filters your blood out of the body. It cleans your blood and then it brings it back in. And it does this within 3 hours. So it does this process in only 3 hours, which your body does within like 24 hours. So, and that's why you get so tired afterwards.
How often
And
did you have to do that?
yeah, so I had to do that. At first, I was there for a month and I had to do it for a full month nonstop, like every day. That's how
Every
bad my
day.
blood was. Then it's usually 3 times a week through hemodialysis. But my fistula wouldn't work and I got a blood clot. I don't know if you can see that extended kind of artery. So I got a blood clot here. And so they had to take the port out immediately. They tried a fistula, but it didn't end up working. And so they had to put a catheter in my stomach and I had to start peritoneal dialysis. And what peritoneal dialysis is you hook yourself up to a machine at home every night, and this like sugary solution goes into your peritoneal cavity and it's like pulls the toxins out of your body through into your peritoneal cavity. And then you have your port or your, that catheter. It goes out your catheter through a tube that goes to your bathtub. And
My goodness.
yeah. And it does that probably 8 times through the night. It goes in, it fills your belly up so you feel kind of full. It sucks the toxins out, and then it goes out the solution goes out your bathtub.
So through this time period,
Yeah.
you had to be questioning God again. You had
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, because I was doing dialysis for 2 years, and none of my maybe one of my family members came forward to try to get tested. And so that was a thing I had to get over, the fact that nobody wanted to kind of step up and help me, especially since I was basically, I mean, you're dying. You really are dying. A machine's keeping me alive, basically. And so that was hard. But also, it was just like, why me? I'm in shape. I'm not a drinker. I've never smoked. I've done everything right. I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, I really was. Like, I
Well, there's a
just,
lot of "why me?" I
yeah,
know I
why,
went through that as
why
well.
me? I
"God,
don't get
why? I'm a
this.
good
Yeah,
person." You
yeah,
know, what but it's so difficult to get through those dark times
yeah,
when, all you have is faith. That's really all
yeah,
you can rely on and pray and hope that God does have this plan, that for
yeah,
some reason you're having to go through it. But there
yeah,
was a silver lining to this, Natalie. There is a silver lining.
yeah.
That that young man that you had been dating a little bit, tell us
Hmm.
the story from there.
Yeah. So, if we step back a second, I was in and out of the hospital. I was probably on my second or third month stay because of complications from dialysis. And he proposed in the hospital to me 4 months into our relationship. Um, I was in a hospital gown toting an IV cart, and he got down on one knee and the nurses videotaped it. It was really sweet.
And he
So
stayed
at
by
that
your
point,
side that whole time.
I know he stayed by my side this whole time, which was pretty amazing, especially for a guy that only knew me for a month. Um, and then he was actually the one that came up with that idea that we moved near my family. So we wanted to start the kidney transplant process. And UCLA was where I started at, but it was very big and the process was going to take a long time. And the drive itself is crazy. I mean, if you've ever been on the 101 in California, it is crazy. So we made the decision to move near my family to have more of a support system. And also because we had heard about the Trinity transplant process. And so we moved, and probably it was that Christmas. So maybe 3, 4 months after we moved to Michigan, bought a home in Hudsonville. He said to me, I'm going to get tested to see if I'm a match. And so I believe New Year's Day, we got a call and found out he was a match. And
Isn't
our
that
wedding,
that is a
we,
true
yeah,
blessing. What an
yeah.
incredible blessing.
I know, but here's the kicker. So me and my I don't know, like we were getting ready for our wedding too this whole time. So we had set our wedding out 2 years because we were hoping we'd get the transplant, I'd have time to recover, and then we would celebrate our wedding, this new beginning kind of thing, with the transplant and everything. Well, we were only when they wanted to do the surgery, which was only 3 months away. They basically said that March we would have the transplant. They had a date to open. And they said we could either do it that March or we could do it in July. There was two openings. Well, our wedding was in June in California. We had already planned it, paid for almost everything. And I'm sitting here going, well, what if I'm puffy? Or what if this? Or what if that? And so I'm thinking about all these things instead of like, yes, let's get the transplant and take that March date. I'm like, well, what if we wait? But the thing is I really wanted to step into my wedding with my husband's kidney, this new beginning for us, especially because both of us, I mean, even they don't talk about how much caregivers go through with when their spouse or their significant other is going through something like this. It's a lot on them too. And so we were going through a lot. And so to have that transplant before our wedding and to be able to kind of start anew was just we were like, okay, let's do March. So we have the surgery. It's a successful. I did have rejection probably a week after, and so I had to go back into the hospital and they had to switch up my medications. But the kidney was stable. We were able to fly to California, get married with all our friends and family around us. And even so, when we got married, I had posted on Match.com where we met. They have a blog area, and I had posted about our relationship, and they caught wind of it and called me, sent us flowers at the transplant, Match.com, and then they had contacted People magazine and the Today Show. And so 2 weeks before our wedding, when we were in California, kind of getting ready for it, we sat down with the Today Show and told our story. Um,
Wow.
I
I
know.
mean, it took such a horrendous thing in your life, but to find out the special plan that God had all along to put this man in your life
Yeah.
and and to get you through all of this and to know that your story is being shared around the world, hopefully a little bit more after this episode.
Hmm.
But it just brings a tear of joy to my eye, and I love the love that you share with your husband because I see it on Facebook every day. I follow you on Facebook, and
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned something earlier that you had
Yeah.
been told you were never gonna have kids, but
Yeah.
I know that that's
Yep.
not true either.
Yeah, so luckily, I mean, honestly, the transplant happened at a perfect time where I was still in my childbearing years, just barely. I was 36. So, we had to, or I think I was 34 when I got the transplant, and we had to wait 2 years to make sure the kidney was okay. And then they gave us the approval to try to have kids. And we now have two beautiful children that wouldn't have been
Oh, yeah.
possible without that kidney. And so, yeah,
Amen.
I'm very thankful to God. And I'm very thankful to my amazing doctors and just everybody that has supported me through this process because I wouldn't have gotten there without everything that has
What
accompanied.
what message would you tell our listeners
Hmm.
about overcoming obstacles in your life when life seems so bleak? Because everybody's got their own story and everybody's
Yeah.
got their crosses to bear, if you
Yeah.
will. I had my eye, you had your kidney, your eating disorder. What advice would you give to people that are going through a really dark time?
I think that sometimes it is really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're going through something pretty major, especially when it's health related. Um, but I guarantee if you can get to that other side, whatever that may look like, right? It might not look perfect and it's definitely not beautiful always, the process of getting there. But if you can get to some point where you're feeling, where your health is stable or where you come out and you have some stability, um, it teaches you so much about yourself and how strong you are. And that's what I truly believe why God had me go through all these things. Is I believe he had me go through this so that he could show me how strong I am, but also so I could help others. Because after my kidney transplant, COVID happened. And because of COVID, we kind of basically my husband said, quit your job, stay home for a while because we were so nervous about losing the kidney. That was my main concern. I did not want to lose my kidney, and I had heard some stories through other transplant patients that lost their kidneys because of COVID. And so I stayed home, and my husband said, "Why don't you go back to school? Like you've always said you wanted to get more schooling." And I said, "Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea." And so I went to GRCC and I went through their occupational therapy program. And I thought, wow, this is great. I can help people that are going through different things and help them find their independence and their voice and their identity. And I can relate because I've been a patient many times.
So you're taking this challenge throughout your entire last portion of your life that
Yes.
you've gone through, and you're helping others. God has
Yeah.
led you to a
Yeah.
ministry of helping others. And
Yeah.
that is a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And I, for one, can't tell you how proud I am that I'm related to you. That means so
Thank you.
much because I think it's such a great thing. It's what I'm trying to do with my ministry here with
Yeah.
this is to share people's stories of when you're faced with something, it's not the end of the world. God will get you
Yeah.
through it and you'll come out stronger on the other end. And when you do, make sure you help others along the way that are going that way. And that's so cool that you're doing that. That is and you're also still doing the physical work too, right? You're still boxing, you're still teaching physical training and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm mainly teaching at the hospital. So I'm at Mary Free Bed, Grand Rapids Rehabilitation Hospital downtown, and I'm inpatient. And so we do a lot of strength training there, and I actually teach classes there. I teach boxing and I help with cardio drumming. I teach some upper body classes. And then I also work with individuals one on one, whether it's through everyday tasks or getting their upper body stronger. And so I do a lot of that. And so I'm getting to use my personal training, but also I'm getting to connect on not only a personal level, but also trying to, un- you know, I might not understand their story. I might not understand exactly what they've gone through, but I've been there. I've been in dark times and pain and all
And
these
you've
different
got your
things.
own story. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can talk to them and I can hopefully help give them some hope, that they'll get to the other side. It just can take time. And I think the biggest lesson I learned too is that we don't have control of life. We have, and it doesn't always have to be this set timeline or what we have planned with our life. We have to kind of give it up to God or whatever we believe in, right? Go, you know what? I'm going to just I'm going to just be. I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, and I'm going to let it unfold how it's supposed to. And I think I just always had tried to control my life so much, like through food, my weight, my working out, just different things, right? And when I finally just let go and just accepted that this was the journey I was on, I found so many beautiful things unravel. I mean, if I wouldn't have gone through my eating disorder, I would have never gotten into the fitness field. I got into the fitness field, which helped me through kidney disease, dialysis, and into my transplant. And then all of that led me into occupational therapy. So God
And
had a
along the way,
plan,
you
even
started a great family as well. Along the way,
exactly.
you started a great
Yes.
family as well.
Yep.
And It's such a beautiful story, and you mentioned something, you had to let go, and one of my favorite sayings is, "Let go and let God." And
Mhm.
and I think you embody that, and that's a beautiful, beautiful story, and
Yeah.
if you can believe it, we've already been talking 30 minutes, and we have talked about your wonderful story. I wanna close the show here, but I want you to hang on just for a moment, okay?
Okay. Yes.
If you like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click the like and subscribe button below. Perhaps you have a story of your own to share: an accident, sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, illness, and you would like to share that journey of overcoming. Please contact me at the email again shown below for consideration for a future podcast interview. I rely on viewers like you to share their stories, like Natalie's here. I bugged her for over a year and I finally got her. So I'm really excited about it. I reached out several times on Facebook and wanted to make sure we had the right time to do this. And again, I'm so grateful to Natalie for sharing her story. Thanks again to tradingcardsmarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship to bring these great stories to all of us. Tradingcardsmarketplace.com, discover, connect, collect, awaken the collector in you. And I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military, veterans, and first responders who put their lives on the line every day. And please don't forget our teachers and medical professionals who all make the world better, one person at a time. But most of all, thank God for all the blessings in our world. We just need to make sure we concentrate on them every single day. Until next time, my friends, you know what I'm going to say. Carpe diem, seize the day.